So Bitcoin just hit an all-time high. The question is, what do you do next? Do you buy more? Do you sell? What the heck? Are we supposed to be allocating 5% of our portfolios to it? 10, 20? There's more bullish news than ever. Shouldn't I dump my whole life savings into it? We're going to be talking about that today. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this. There's also going to be a link underneath the video to PrimeXBT. You can check them out. I'll talk more about it later in the video, but definitely check them out. There's also a link down there to Algo, which is an indicator that shows you bullish and bearish momentum, which can be really helpful when you're looking at this market. You know, are we moving up? Is this price action going to break down? It also shows you when a good time to dollar cost average might be. This goes straight into TradingView, and if you don't know what TradingView is, it's probably the best charting app out there, and it can tell you when you might want dollar cost in or dollar cost average out of the market. Now, Bitcoin is right near all-time highs, and I know a lot of people will be coming into the market here soon. A lot of people are coming into the market, and they have very similar questions. And if you didn't know, I have a beginner's playlist that goes through a lot of the stuff that you need to know as beginners to get you started in this market. I'll put it on the end screen. But the question really is, okay, Bitcoin's at all-time highs, now what? Like, first of all, is it going to go up a lot more? Second of all, how long does it take? Third of all, should I be buying more or selling? Like, what the heck am I supposed to do? This is more money than I've ever seen. For some people, they'll be saying that. So, after we hit an all-time high with Bitcoin, typically it's really bullish, and we see price go up for a while afterwards. Now, every cycle is different. Bitcoin usually moves up and moves down pretty similarly every 4 years. Now, every single time is slightly different. We don't know what's going to happen in the future to 100% certainty, but typically we see a bull market around this time, around the Bitcoin halving. Now, the Bitcoin halving at the time of this recording is like 45 days away. After Bitcoin hits an all-time high, a new all-time high, which would be around $69,000, it usually takes not that long to double again. Back in 2020, it only took 18 days. In March 2017, it took 84 days. November 2013, 10 days. March 2013, 18 days. Now we're seeing Bitcoin's price move up a little bit earlier than it typically does before the halving. If you look here, you can see where we are compared to the halving. This is just maybe a little bit old, so a couple weeks. So we're probably like right here. Now each quadrant is a year, so we're just a little bit away from this halving. Now typically we don't see all-time highs for another a good amount of time after the halving. Here it took about 3 months. Here took almost a year, like closer to 7-8 months. Here it took about the same, about 8 months. Now it looks like we might even see an all-time high before the halving, and a lot of that is due to the Bitcoin ETFs. There are a lot of entities, there are a lot of individuals and large investors, Wall Street people that are buying Bitcoin, and we haven't seen that in the past, so they're pushing up the price earlier. Now, if you don't understand this chart, just take a second. You can read it. Each circle, each spiral around is a 4-year cycle. The big blue dots are all-time highs. The red dots are bottoms. And this is super helpful. This shows you everything you need to know in terms of price action for all of Bitcoin's history. Now, it's not great at showing you exactly how high we peaked, like the exact price, but it's great at showing you where we peak. So if we're hitting the new all-time high, typically when we hit the new all-time high, it takes about a year to peak. Now, that's not always the case. You can see here, maybe 2 months into the year, we hit a new all-time high. And then towards the end of the year, before the year was done, we hit the peak. So it was maybe 2 months in and then 2 months from the end. So maybe 8 months where we hit new all-time highs and then peaked out completely. Here, it was closer to maybe 9 months, 10 months, where we hit a new all-time high here. And then a little while later, at the end of the year, we hit a peak. Now, here, we hit a new all-time high before 2020 was done. Then we peaked out about a year later. So it's always within about 9 months to a year. Now, this can always change, right? But this is about the timeline that you should be looking at for a bull run. Now, we can have explosive peaks where we have blow off tops, and maybe you don't want to sell right when we hit a new all-time high, because every single cycle we've had 3.5x or more ahead of the previous all-time high. Like last cycle was the worst performing cycle, and we went from an old peak of about 19,000 to a new peak of 70,000. Now, if we did the same thing this cycle, we would be looking at a price of $245,000 if I have my math right. I'm not saying we're going to hit there, but we could move up a lot from the $70,000 mark. So is it best to sell right when we hit an all-time high? Typically not. We can still see 30% dips in the meantime, but typically you want to hold out a little bit longer. Now, should you be buying? I want to talk about that, but first let's talk about PrimeXBT. Now, before we go any further, if you want to start trading, you can try PrimeXBT underneath the video and get up to $7,000 of bonuses. All you need is an email. You can also connect via Google or Apple, and in 5 seconds, you can start depositing funds. You can obviously deposit crypto, or you can buy crypto with Visa cards or MasterCard. And even if you can't trade on other exchanges, you're welcome to start trading on PrimeXBT. And they have really low fees. They have 0.01% maker fees and 0.02% taker fees. They have 0.01% funding fees, and this is much lower than KuCoin, for example, which is 10x higher, and even Binance is much higher than this. Now, they have 30 plus trading pairs, including Sol, AVAX, Doge, obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can leverage from 1 to 100x and even 150 to 200x on cross margin. They have deep liquidity and very high execution speed. And as I said, the fees are much lower than other platforms. Let's say you want to trade on leverage. As you can see here, I have a position open. I entered at 51,300. The market price is now 63,000 for Bitcoin. So I have a 200% return. As you can see, you just hit place buy order. You can mess around with the isolated margin or cross margin. You can set the leverage to whatever you want. You can also choose whether you want limit orders or market orders. And then once you set the order, you can change your stop loss or take profits. So check out PrimeXBT underneath the video. There are some large deposit bonuses that you can get from using that link. So we know how quickly Bitcoin doubles typically after it hits all-time highs. We know maybe about the time that it's looking at peaking out, like probably within a year of when it hits all-time highs. That could change a bit because there are entities that are buying that just buy and buy and buy. It's not like a individual investor which is looking for a 2x or a 3x. These entities, and we saw some today, for example, let's pull this up, BlackRock. They're putting Bitcoin in their Strategic Income Opportunities Fund. MSTR, who's issuing more debt to buy more Bitcoin. Stanford Endowment is buying Bitcoin. Like, there are entities that don't care about a 2x. They want to hold for a very long time. They don't care how high it goes. They're just going to be net buyers. There are countries that are buying. So maybe we don't see that same blow-off peak, or maybe we see a blow-off peak and then we see a 30% drop. More entities come in that missed out on what we're about to see, this massive bull run. They come in and they start buying up the dip, and then we never see an 80% drop again. So that's something to consider. Maybe you don't want to sell your entire bag. But the question is, like, how heavy should you go? If you're really bullish, which you might be, how heavy should you go? Should you go 1%, 10%, 50% of your portfolio? Obviously, it's going to be dependent on your own situation. That's obvious, right? You could be worth $100 million. You could be worth $8 and have $8,000 worth of credit card debt. I don't know your own situation. But let's say you are worth like $50,000, right? Maybe you have $5,000, $10,000 worth of cash. You have a couple $100 every month to invest. Well, maybe you do want an allocation to this asset. I still am super bullish on Bitcoin over the long term. There's a reason why I talk about Bitcoin in almost every single video. I make 3 videos a day, 4 videos a day on Bitcoin. There's a reason for that. I think it's a life-changing asset, and it's one of the only ones that, well, it's the only one that I know of that individuals have been able to buy before Wall Street. And it's actually providing real value. There's a reason why it has value. You can send your economic value, or you can send this Bitcoin across the world in seconds for a fraction of any other way of sending value, whether it's US dollars, whether it's gold, whether it's something else, for a fraction of the cost, and you can do it without an intermediary. And a lot of people want part of that. A lot of people want part of that network, and there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. A lot of it's lost. A lot of it's being swallowed up. People realize that the time is now if they want to buy before it goes up exponentially, because we've seen the amount of Bitcoin that's available to buy go down significantly, especially over the last couple months. So how much should you buy? Well, it's going to be dependent on your situation, but I think it makes sense to start. Obviously, it's going to be dependent on your own intelligence as well. Like, how well do you understand Bitcoin, and how well can you stomach volatility? But if you're super bullish, I'd say just start with 1% allocation. So let's say you're worth $50,000, start with $500. Just start with that. Understand the volatility. You'll probably learn more about yourself. You'll probably learn how you react in different situations. You'll understand the security aspect of it more after you start buying. And then you can dollar cost average from there. You can buy over time. Now, what if you're already there? What if you understand how Bitcoin is, you understand what it does, and you understand all that, but you're just thinking, okay, I've bought the whole time. I bought for 2-3 years. Should I buy more? Well, honestly, this is an interesting time because it's the worst time probably ever in history to buy Bitcoin. But it's also the best time maybe of any time in the future to buy Bitcoin. I hope that makes sense, but it's higher than it's ever been. It's also possibly lower than it will ever be, at least for a long time. So if you don't have enough Bitcoin, sure, go buy some more, right? Dollar cost average. You probably understand it well enough to add some more. You understand the risks. Now, when I say go double your allocation, probably not, because there's probably a reason that you didn't buy more in the bear market. Like if you had all this cash available, right? It's probably because you couldn't stomach the volatility or made you too scared or something. Now, I feel pretty good about my Bitcoin stack. I feel pretty good about my crypto stack. So maybe I'm off here. Let me know in the comment section. Do you think you should be doubling your portfolio? If you already, let's say you just learned about it a couple months ago, you've been dollar cost averaging, but you came into some more money. Maybe you move some funds around and now you really want to buy. Okay, maybe dollar cost average that amount over the next couple months. Put it into the market, or the next couple weeks maybe. Put it into the market. But just know that whatever I say isn't going to be perfect. Like, I don't know when the peak is going to be. I don't know when any intra dips are going to be. So if you DCA, you might win compared to just lump sum investing it, or you might miss out a little bit. If we move up exponentially, which is what has happened in the past, maybe you just want to put it into the market now. Now, I am still accumulating a little bit more. I've gotten paid in Bitcoin, in cryptocurrency. The last few days, I've still been getting paid. Sometime in the near future, that will change, or I'll start getting paid maybe half in crypto, half in stablecoin, and cashing that out. We're moving into an unprecedented time. We're moving into price discovery. Typically, we still see a lot of upside from here, but be ready for some volatility. It's not going to be up only. We're going to have some 10% down days, 5% down days. We're also going to have some 10% up days. It's going to be nuts. So get ready. I think at the time that I'm literally recording this, we are approaching all-time highs within a few $100s. So I'm going to let you go, but I hope this is helpful. Again, you can check out PrimeXBT underneath the video, and I'll see you in the next one.